Kallum's short story, a grippingly violent tale of a boy and his enabler in all of this violence, is read here by Curro Create favourite Dean Balie, actor, voice-over artist, musician and writer. You can choose how to follow Kallum's story. Either mute the sound and read it in your own reader's voice, or experience it through Dean's brilliant dramatic reading.
You'll judge me for saying it, but you know it's true. Somewhere, deep down in the lizard limbic system of your brain, in the primitive back alley thought paths we try to suppress, nothing compares to the solid contact of your fist with someone's face. My face twists as my body becomes one massive roiling mass, thoughts and feelings, rage and despair spinning and writhing together in my washing machine heart to fuse into a singular horrid cacophony of furious flowing rage. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see Jake leaning forward, mouth hanging open in a grin, with a predatory glint in his eyes reflecting the violence, the sacred retribution I was merely a conduit for. "Kill him," Jake snarls. I glance away from the man who just knocked my phone out of my hands, resolutely schooling my face, emptying my expression of the rage pressing out from beneath my skin as I ignore my friend's whispered advice. The man plows on out the store without so much as a second glance back at me, as he remains fixated on his phone call throughout. Seeing his blatant disregard for what he'd done only strengthens the churn within me, forcing me to pause and recalibrate my emotions before registering the barista looking at me with expectation. "Excuse me, you still need to order." I put on what I hope was an appeasing smile, coming off more fragile than intended, before ordering my coffee, all while Jake contains his susurrus litany of violent suggestions in my ear. Thanking the barista, I whisper, "Shut up, Jake. I'm not killing anyone." The barista's plasticky customer service smile flickers into an honest grimace at hearing the violence of my whisper, before quickly returning to its false beam. "Thank you for your business," she exclaims, slight relief showing on her features as I depart with a coffee that would officially start my morning. "You cannot let people do that to you." Jake is livid, face flushed and eyes flashing as he lopes beside me while I drink my coffee. Fuming, he follows me across the street to the school, somehow drawing no stares or even second glances despite his outfit. One would think he would garner at least some reaction, with his muzzed mullet, wine-red leather jacket and fingerless spiked gloves, on top of heavy black jeans and combat boots. "People cannot get away with disrespecting us," he continues, body drawn taut with ill-restrained anger. He was always like that, a tightly coiled snake, forever on the edge of violence. "Us? He bumped into me. No need to get so upset, man," I say. He stares at me for a second before looking away, continuing to walk towards the school with me and showing more and more discomfort as he does so. He'd been expelled from St. Joseph's and Rondebosch High and Bishop's, etc., long before we'd ever met. Just after snap, clean, as a birch falls to a lumberjack, the snap of ended vitality, snap, snap, snap. Just after grade 8 had ended. Since then, I just assumed he spent all his time doing whatever high school dropouts got up to, while I busied myself with the daily drudgery of schoolwork. I know Dr. Morgan suggested Jake acquire some gainful employment to pass the time and even make some money, but somehow doubted he ever took that advice to heart. Whatever it was, I doubted he enjoyed it, as whenever I brought it up, he would don a pained grimace and quickly change the subject. St. Joseph's is a beautiful school, refracted through a thin layer of age and disrepair that tints the edges but fails to truly dull the appeal of the tall, distinguished white and red buildings that make up the campus. I love the school. From the sunken library to the small unused closet right at the peak of the staircase, from whose window you can climb onto the roof and sit, staring at the people below and the city around, Table Mountain looming protectively over all. Just walking in through the gates, now without Jake, is enough to make me feel calmer. The cool air of the grounds flowing soothingly over me, Those first steps onto the ground always feel like bliss. That bliss quickly flees, however, as I check my timetable, stomach plummeting as I see that English is scheduled for my first 2 periods. I had loved English my entire schooling career, cherishing the freedom and room for expression available in the answers and the art of composing the perfect essay. Before this year, it had never occurred to me that one teacher, no matter how draconic and cynical, could make me dread the prospect of sitting in his English class, make me despise the subject I love in 9 short months. But Mr. Gitten had accomplished it. Shuffling through the hallways, mood curdling, I suddenly find myself before the red door of the English classroom exactly when I dreaded I would, and open the door without hesitation. I'm already late. I would rather get my morning beratement out of the way than loiter miserably outside the door. Mr. Gitten is already in full swing, snapping his marker against the smooth whiteboard as best as he can, terribly, seemingly forgetting that chalk and its cracking cadence have been lacking in classrooms for decades. Nevertheless, he makes a valiant effort, eliciting a mild staccato squeak from it as he declares today's topic on the board.
Over the next week, we will be talking about writer's voice and how to include it in your essays,
Gitten declaims.
And you lot will be expected to develop your own. No need to fear. I expect you to fail miserably, and as such will not be disappointed by your feeble efforts. But before we do that, I must hand out the abysmal essays that are the reason we are redoing fundamental techniques.
He proceeds over to his desk, where he picks up a stack of papers and begins handing them out to the class.
Some of you may notice that you got very high marks, losing out on full marks due to seemingly arbitrary mistakes.
Gitten never spoke. He lectured incessantly, monologued frequently, and preached constantly on the myriad faults he found in the world with a faint nasal whine reminiscent of a dying ceiling fan. He pauses for a moment before continuing.
That is because I firmly believe students can never achieve full marks, and as such raised my requirements for your papers and marked your new mistakes accordingly. Does anyone have a problem?
Gitten blows past me, all but tossing my essay down onto my desk, forcing me to scramble to prevent it from sliding off. Dragging it back onto my desk face down, I turn it over slowly, wearily resigned to a low mark I know I don't deserve, yet still kindling a tiny kernel of hope that Gitten marked fairly for once, finally decided to be a real teacher, and before me lies a perfectly formed, beautiful red ovoid that would be impressive in its exactness, if not for its choice of location right at the top of my essay page. Gut-wobbling in disbelieving horror at the sight of a 0 on one of my assignments, I flip through the pages, trying to find any red comments, see what reasons Gitten possibly found to justify failing my essay, but find nothing. I turn in my chair, catching Gitten's eye as I raise my paper and my voice. "Excuse me, sir, I just want to..." Gitten cuts me off without so much as a glance in my direction, simply continuing to hand out essays.
Didn't read that paper, psycho. So there can't be any comments. That was your question, wasn't it?
I look at the rest of the class, seeing if anyone else has a reaction to Gitten's words, but they keep their heads down as I search desperately for a sympathetic glance from someone, anyone. I stare at Gitten. Thoughts of raising my voice, of finally confronting him and telling him all I truly thought, of letting the anger pulsing against the back of my eyes out at him, making him feel the pain he deserved, delivering it with my own 2 fists. They always describe blood as shiny, but it's rather dull, dripping from my knuckles, so warm, no one mentions how warm it is, copper filling the air as my mind collapses, seeing nothing but remembering everything.
And the rest of you can come to me in the evening if you really want to fight about your marks, Gitten says,
ending off with a muttered,
"Heaven knows I want to choose someone out."
My body collapses potato sack style, melting on the chair in an inelegant heap as I tune out, leaving my drained body to the remainder of the lesson as I float out through the walls to wander the school, lost in silent reverie of the beautiful shell built around the putrid classrooms I am stuck in. The rest of the school day drifts by barely noticed as my mind remains trapped in Gitten's class, thoughts circling incessantly around the injustice of his behavior. Lost in my thoughts, I barely hear the bell ring, only realizing and leaving once almost every other student is out the class. I walk out the class and the school, irritation stewing in me all the way as I come out onto the street and turn left down the sidewalk towards my home. Suddenly, a burst of pain tears through my right arm, sending me to the ground in a jumbled gravel-scraped heap. I glance up from between my arms to see a black SUV swinging up onto the pavement, passenger door springing open to admit a girl I recognize from my class. My emotions uncurl with lightning speed, filling my body with painful energy that hungers for a target provided by the sight of the car, an object to focus my hate on. I spring up and kick the car, channeling the immense amount of hatred coursing through me down my leg and into the bumper. Abruptly, my seething hatred flips into nauseating shame, embarrassment, and disappointment in myself sap the strength from my once electrified bones as I regain control and realize what I've done.
Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?
A man's voice shouts from the interior of the car. Without the temporary strength of my anger, I can only manage a jittery jog away from the car, shame and disgust at my lack of control hot on my heels. Eventually, I slip into a miserable lope, slowly making my way through the city until I reach the park where Jake should be waiting for me. Focused as I am on getting to Jake so that I can properly vent about my feelings, I fail to pay attention to my surroundings and barrel into something soft and barely above chest height. A startled boy rocks back from me with a light whoof, barely avoiding flopping to the ground. Disdain bubbles up in me as I look down and consider him. "Get lost, kid. Out of my way." Fear flashing, he scampers off without so much as a second glance at me. "Damn kids running around this park like they own it." I jump. Jake's sudden words from behind startling me. "Should have given him a good punch or two, Alex, just to teach him a lesson." He flashes a grin with a quiet, secret satisfaction of an inside joke. "Can't let kids disrespect you." "No, thwack, damn. He can't get away with that this time. Insults, thwack, ever again, snap. What was that? Speak, hey, speak, please, say something, please." Like that, right? Jake is looking at me intently, jovial expression still painted on his face. I shake my head, letting out a quick sigh before returning his grin with my own weak smile. "Never mind that. Let me tell you about today." We head to the bench we've claimed as our own, sitting facing the descending sun with Jake as my audience as I rave about my irritation with Gitten and the rest of my day. Jake is a good listener, seemingly incongruous with his aggressive tendencies. At least he picked up something from the therapy sessions, even if he completely breezed by the actual anger management segment. "And you're just going to put up with this?" Jake asks as I pause, breathless from my extended rant about the day's events. "Can't you at least try to go to this thing after school and talk to him?" I sigh, drawing it out in a futile attempt to communicate my exasperation and fatigue to Jake. "It's not like he's going to do anything if I do go talk to him anyway," I say, rueful annoyance coating my words. "Then don't just talk and beg for marks," Jake says, eyes glinting. "Go and confront him and do something about the situation instead of just whining about it to me." I glance towards him, irritation flashing and rage welling up in me at his tone. Yes, finally you're getting serious. Wrong person though." He grins, turning on the bench to face me fully. I look away, breath slowing as I try to calm down and step back from the precipice Jake is nudging me towards. I hear Jake sigh in exasperation. "Are you seriously still holding on to that let go and remain calm advice from therapy? Screw that. I'll even come with you if you won't do it alone." Calm shattered, I step off the edge, my face stretching into a wide-eyed grin, matching Jake as his words resonate with the fury welling up inside me. He's right. I should confront Gitten, show him why he's wrong, do something instead of just taking it all passively. Righteous wrath steels my bones, sending me surging up from the bench and marching resolutely back to school and Gitten. Each step towards the school feels solid. I see determination accelerating the journey, awakening fury guiding each step with implacable purpose along the familiar route through the school gates, now with Jake at my side. Into the high school building, up the stairs to the second floor, and the red English classroom door that I push open. Golden sunlight pours in through the high open windows on the left. Soft evening rays illustrating the classroom, blurring the hard edges of both room and reality. Having Jake with me in a classroom feels surreal. Not quite a dream, but the halfway hallucination of the space between waking and sleeping. The heavy warmth that comes just before sleep blanketing me as I walk through the door with Jake at my side. The same warmth seems to fill the air now. The dying blazes of the day's heat pressing in on me from all directions, squashing cool, logical thought, leaving only heat and emotion in me as I advance towards Gitten.
Oh,
Mr. Gitten exhales in faint surprise.
you can't hold your temper or listen, can you? I said the others can argue for their marks, not you, so you can go now.
He turns back to his computer. Issue resolved in his mind as the clickety-clack of his keys dominates the heavy silence that follows his words. My mind blanks. Coherent thought washed away by the wave of sheer indignant anger that fills me, that has been building up throughout the day. How dare he? I knew he would never repent and change, and yet still I came. Convinced by Jake that I could confront him and change his mind, but of course not. As my mind fills with violence, muscles drawn taut in ready obeisance to my mind's rage-filled plans, I struggle to breathe, to remember what Dr. Morgan taught me to do in these situations. The 3 4s. 4 in, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, breathe. Hurt him, hold for 4 breaths, try to stem the roiling rage, breathe out for 4. Jake's head snaps towards me as I try to calm myself, eyes narrowing in frustration at the sound of my rhythmic breathing. Really? You came all this way, got disrespected by him again, and now you're just breathing? He all but screams the last word, spittle flying as he loses all composure. Hatred emanates from him in a sickly miasma that lies heavy in the air, scratching and clawing at the thin veneer of calm I am attempting to pull over my anger. I know that anger in you, he chuckles, teeth glinting, more than you can know. Stop trying to control yourself and do what you want to. Kill him, he says, and I explode. Mr. Gitten is an old man, a teacher who honed his craft on blackboards and was already losing his passion while blackboards were starting to fall out of use. He is also completely unprepared for any sort of physical confrontation. In other words, it is over from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps close the distance between us, and before he can react, I drive the first punch into his gut, doubling him over and pushing a rushed gush of air out of his mouth, quickly following up with a strike to said mouth that drives him to the floor. I don't know when it became real, but every blow is full force now. No laughing now, no jokes now, only the thump of fists and his weakening cry, so pitiful, so annoying, but even worse when it stops. My head is splitting. Half-coherent streams of thought and memory whizzing by, giving me no chance to notice anything, to slow down and just think. In the beginning I feel in control, think I am in control for the first time by punching Gitten and standing up to him. But now all I want to do is stop, to end it before it happens again, because I've been here before, on the ground taking out my anger on someone else. I want to stop, but sheer momentum drives my actions now. The rage and absolute desire to hurt someone that has built up during the day, pushing me forward with all the inexorable strength of a tidal wave. Don't let up now. Jake looks truly feral, leaning towards me from where he is, standing by the wall. Make him hurt, Alex! My eyes tear up, regret welling with each hideous strike at Gitten, only pausing when I see his mouth quivering.
At least,
Gitten wheezes, each word a Herculean effort.
Look me in the eye instead of talking to the wall, you crazy child.
Gitten's words bring me to a stuttering halt, freezing my arm drawn back for another devastating blow as I process his words. Alex! Jake barks at me, still standing by a wall. Don't stop now! You can't stop now! You have to keep going, you've got no choice, right? Jake's words slide over me as slowly thoughts start to congeal, simmering and mixing through the years to form a repulsive conclusion. With my face transfigured into a terrified rictus, I turn to Jake. "You never talk to anyone," I murmur, fist still drawn back for another blow that will never come. "And you weren't there before I..."
"Bullshit, and you know it," Jake snarls. "I was always there. You were just less afraid of me before."
I open my mouth, then close it, then open it again like a fish, hesitating, knowing that my next question will be the thread that unravels my world. Confusion innovated with horrifying knowledge fills me with a hollow nausea, tinging my words with a whiny, plea-filled note I'm proud of. "What are you talking about? Jake, what are you saying? Why can't he see you? Why don't you ever talk to people? Who are you?"
"You know who I am,"
Jake shouts, dropping down to his haunches, glass eyes frozen upon my own. I rock back onto my rear, leaving Mr. Gitten wheezing before me as the message behind his words hits me. "You're..."
"Say it,"
he whispers, with the quiet fervor of a zealot.
"I want to hear you say it."
"You're me," I squeeze out, shame oozing from my voice. My own anger. That's why you always seem ready to blow. You're the one who makes me feel this way. You're... My breath hitches as I glance at the body lying prone before me. "You're the reason I did that to my brother, that I'm doing this now." Jake titters like a mother hen, a sense of wry disappointment behind his actions.
"Most people hear that voice too, driving them to violence, to act, jump, do what they shouldn't."
Jake punctuates his scything statements with jabbing fingers aimed at my chest.
"I did nothing. You do bad things, and you can't handle it. So I'm here to play scapegoat. So now let me help you and finish what we started."
Seconds stretch into minutes, stretch into hours. Rubber band snapping back to seconds as I struggle with my feelings and Jake's words, which suggests I'm really just struggling with one problem, that being my feelings in a bad mullet. It's not every day you find out you're insane, and I can feel every one of Jake's words prickling in my brain, tearing my world into tatters. As I sit stewing in the scraps of my collapsed mindscape, I see Gitten's head lift slightly, buggy eyes staring out at me from his broken glasses.
"You really are crazy,"
he says with difficulty, bloody spittle dripping from the corner of his mouth. Explosions go off in Jake's eyes, thrumming with lively wrath.
"See? This sad sack of a teacher is so hateful that he still has the will to insult you while on the floor halfway to unconsciousness. Are you really going to get cold feet and stop rightfully punishing this guy? Come on!"
"No," I say, resolve welling up from some hidden corner of my soul. "No, I'm not hurting anyone anymore just because I can't get control of my feelings. And that's what they are, aren't they? Not your whispered suggestions, your anger, but mine. So you can leave now, Jake. I don't need you anymore. No more, Jake." Getting up from in front of Gitten with a soft sigh, I turn and flee from the school, leaving Mr. Gitten stretched out on the floor and Jake standing next to him. As I turn to go, I catch a faint glimpse of upturned lips on Jake's face before rounding the door frame and stumbling away down the hallway. Remorse suddenly strikes me, prompting me to take out my phone and dial emergency services to the school. I've decided not to kill Gitten. Gosh, I really thought to do that. So it would be a shame if he died from his injuries anyway. Fists smarting with pain and soul burning with shame, I flee, homeward bound. Nothing quite feels real after Jake left, died. I don't know what the correct term is for the end of a figment of my imagination. I wonder if this is how prisoners slated for execution feel. My body is empty after the weight of what happened today. All my energy sucked dry and replaced with fuzzy lead, leaving me dead weight on my bed. Somewhere in my head, I know that there will be consequences for what I've done today. That my life as I know it is utterly ruined. Suspension, possibly expulsion, back to therapy and Dr. Morgan. But I also find Whether due to the sheer exhaustion diffused throughout my being or my new perspective, I simply do not care. I can't run away from this, not after accepting what I've done. The memories of my brother, damned for so long. The thwack, the thump of fists, his weakening cries, the snap, flow freely and inexorably now, mingling with today's experience to form a rather displeasing mixture. I can't change what I've done, even as recently as today. But I did it, and I can control what I do next.